recording.
Should we
Wonderful.
put the host key in the notes so that we remember every time, or is that bad?
No, because then anybody can be a host.
Oh, okay. That's what I was kind of hoping for, but.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Or after where you are in the world. So let's get this going this morning. If you could all add your names to the attendee section on the notes, that would be groovy. Is there anybody on the call that this is their first time joining or who hasn't introduced themselves to the group yet? Not seeing anybody. Okay. Next, is there anybody who would like to host for the community meeting tomorrow?
I'm hosting.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, Paris is hosting.
Yep. We actually have hosts for this week and next week. It's after KubeCon where we start to not have hosts, but I dropped a link to the schedule there for the week right after KubeCon, and the week after that we need a host.
Okay.
So just...
that's the community meeting tracking sheet, right?
Yep. They can just go in there, and there's a column that says hosts, and you can just volunteer.
Add your name?
Sure.
Great. So outreach for meet our contributor / office hours. Is there anybody on this call that would like to help with
that? Just a call that we are having a office hours today, this afternoon. And volunteers welcome. I guess that's what that section is for.
So if people wanted to help out with that, should they reach out to you, George?
Yeah, just reach out to me.
Okay, cool. And then graph for community meeting of the week. Is there anybody who had something on the top of mind? If not, then we can skip this week because we've done it the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think this might be a good week to skip.
Okay.
I can.
Yes, George?
I could do either YouTube stats or Slack's stats if anyone's interested. I mean, it's only like a minute.
That would be really good because I haven't even looked at those.
Which one do you want, Slack or YouTube?
I'm sending out the Slack stats to KDev this afternoon, FYI.
Well, it might be good to do that one.
Okay. Or I could do YouTube. I mean, whatever. I'll do whatever people want, but we have social stats.
Okay. So George is going to do the graph of the week.
Yeah. Probably YouTube. If Paris is going to send out the, yeah.
Okay, cool. And George, could you add that to the community meeting notes?
Yes, I will. Yep.
Great. Okay. So that takes us through our recurring meeting items. Paris, I think this next section is yours. Contribex update slide template for KubeCon.
Yep.
Right?
All sub-project owners, if you could update the slide template for KubeCon. If you do not update the slide template, there's a high probability we will not talk about your sub-project. So please add any information there. You do not have to worry about formatting or making it pretty or adding memes. All I would like, and Elsie and I would like, is words on a slide. And then we'll figure out the rest. So please update that. If we're giving a time box, if it could be done by Friday close of business, that would be awesome. Ideally, next Wednesday, we want to circulate out the slides that we're doing. So and make sure that everybody approves that. So any questions, concerns, or comments on that? All right.
Groovy. Current contributor track session voting email is going out. Who has that one?
That's me as well.
Beautiful.
We have, I think, 14 proposed topics at this point for the current contributor summit, some of which have leads, some of them don't. But we are going to vote this afternoon. I'm going to set that up most likely with Civ's voting poll. I did research other voting polls for us, but I don't know why in 2018 voting software is still blah, to say the least. But so we're going with Civs again, most likely. Folks will have 1 week to vote, and the email will go out to all attendees, including new contributors, in case they want to take a peek at one of the sessions that's going on. And that's it. Questions, concerns, comments with current contributor track at the summit? All right.
All right. George, you have this next one. Update on KEP 5.
Yep, no updates because Joe was working on KEP 5 and he went to the Grand Canyon last week, so he's just getting back and spinning up. And I have the next one is KEP 7. Thanks so much for everyone's feedback so far. I have a prototype URL that's all set up there. If you can follow the link, if you haven't gotten the invite from me. It's basically just set up. We're kind of kicking the tires. I've set up Mutt. This is how dedicated I am. I set up Mutt so I could test the email interaction with like the oldest school of users to make sure that we get decent data out of that. I've also reached out to the Ghost community, gave us some good feedback on their move away from Slack that I've linked into the KEP, which is very interesting feedback as far as they just totally got rid of real-time communication, which seems crazy to me. But it's good information to have. And I've set up single sign-on and stuff, and that all works. The problem is that when you go to click and you set GitHub, it's like this application owned by CastroJO. So it's kind of under all my personal namespace. So I sent a mail to Ehor to figure out, hey, is there someone at the CNCF who has like officially keeps track of like the Google, Twitter, like, so all of these single sign-on things have like a client ID and a secret key. And it felt weird to have those under a personal space. So I started the process asking on what that looks like officially, because I'm sure someone needs to do like credential rotation and all that kind of good stuff for something like this. And pending the KEP being approved, mostly I'm just ready to kind of run the prototype for a while, see what we can glean for it. Anyone have any questions? Look at that. I was so fast. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you for working on that, George.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun. I've got a lot of locals helping me.
So it looks like our next session, or our next topic, is from Josh, which is DevStats query access.
Yeah, at a request from me and Tim, Lucas set up access to the test copy of the Postgres database that's part of the processing stream for DevStats, so that we could run ad hoc queries looking for certain things, and maybe set up some dashboards for the release team, because it's our best sort of source of compiled data. I spent most of the last release cycle trying to work with GitHub staff as well, and realized I was in the process of reinventing DevStats to get it to work, so that seemed like a bad idea. But if anyone else wants access in order to run ad hoc queries for data mining our contributor base, then go ahead and PM or email me, because I'll set up SSH access for you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Josh. George.
Oh, yeah, I have a question for you, Josh. Is this something that you would consider having like a little workflow for, so that, let's say a SIG lead wanted to do something like this? Like, do you have a workflow in mind where it's like talk to Josh and then he goes does a bunch of stuff for you and then gives you the data, or?
No. This is well, I guess it really depends on the request, right?
Right.
Because if the request is, I want to do some exploratory data mining,
right,
and I know how to write queries, then my response is going to be, give me your SSH public key.
Okay.
And I will set up access for you. If it's hey, can you look in the DevStats data for X? then it'll be as time available from one of the people who knows how to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to announce it as a public resource because I don't think either Tim or I have time to handle random requests. Although, if it's understood that we're not going to turn around any of the things promptly, it wouldn't be bad to put up an issue or something so that people knew they could ask.
I mean,
I want to make it really clear that if they happen to ask, for example, during code freeze, we're really not going to get back to them for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Any suggestions on how we could do that?
I was just gonna say, I thought it was possible to download a dump of the Postgres database and import it locally, and then run.
Yeah, one thing to request, particularly from people who are say SIG leads,
Right. That's what I was saying.
data, but are not good against writing queries against a very complicated and unintuitive database schema.
Okay.
You have to understand a fair amount about this database to get useful data out of it. So I'd kind of expect those kinds of queries. And the thing is, I know I can take those kinds of requests, during times if I'm in DevStats anyway, looking for something or updating a dashboard, then I can run somebody else's query. It's just, we don't want to have the expectation of turnaround time, and we don't want to create a public query interface.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I didn't mean to imply that at all, because that sounds like
so right. So like I said, I would be happy to put up an issue or something somewhere for people to post their information they want to look for. I'm just cautious about doing it in such a way that they know that the turnaround time is not going to be rapid.
Yeah. Or I was thinking maybe just something you might want to just let the leads know, hey, if you ever need to look into this, we have Josh available.
Yeah. Well, me or Tim, possibly Aaron, who just PM'd me to set up his key.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
I mean, I view it as something that's not
better to have an issue tracker or something. So
I would view it as something that's not strictly speaking necessary for exploratory data analysis, but if you're trying to prototype some kind of dashboard against live data, that's where it's sort of necessary. But if you're just trying to craft a query yourself to figure out what you can learn historically, you should be very, very capable of doing that by importing a database locally so that you're not wasting shared CPU resources. But you said this was the test database, not the live one, so people running queries against this aren't going to be impacting live
data. But however, every time Lucas makes any changes, he runs tests against this test database. So if we actually peg the CPU in the test database at 100%, it does disrupt his workflow. Now,
that's why I was trying to make the distinction that if you're trying to do exploratory stuff, do it on your own system.
Okay.
All right. And that takes us to our last agenda item, at least on the sheet today. So call for recommendations with new contributor workshop. And this sounds like a Paris item. Paris, is this you?
I'm sorry, I wasn't even paying attention.
No.
Yeah, this sounds like Josh's thing.
No, it's not.
Okay, Josh.
Yep.
We have a couple of areas where we don't feel like we have enough experience to address all of the questions and stuff we're going to get from the new contributors, between me and Guinevere and Ilya. And those two particular areas are, number one, for code contributors setting up and utilizing a local build and test environment. As in, that's something I can do, but if somebody raises their hand with a question about, I tried to do this and ran into this problem, I'm not going to be able to help them. And the second is someone to go through a brief tour of the public testing infrastructure. That is the test that we run, that SIG testing and test infra run. on Kubernetes and that sort of thing, and how to look at those tests and what the different general areas of tests mean. Something I could do, but somebody from one of the SIGs could do better. And so what I'm just asking this group is whether or not they can recommend people that I can ask to take on those segments.
I can do the public testing. That's basically going to be what my KubeCon talk is anyway.
Cool. Okay, we will follow up with you as soon as we have a schedule with timings so that you know what time we'll need you in the room, because this will obviously mean skipping out from the existing contributor sessions in order to join our session for 20 minutes.
Great. And then if somebody wanted to volunteer for build and test, they should PM you?
Yes. Or if you recommend somebody who would do a good job of that, for that matter, for me to solicit, PM me, please.
Great. Thank you, Josh. So that wraps up our agenda. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to cover?
I mean, I can talk for the next hour on several topics. Does anybody have any questions for me about mentoring?
I had a question about yesterday with the owner's files with the Ingress. So what exactly is happening here? And I'm just like confused. Like, is this something that's people are going to keep asking us?
I don't really think so. So the Ingress repos, my understanding is there was a split. So there was just an Ingress repo that handled both the Ingress controller for Nginx and the one for Google Compute. And then they split those apart into two separate repos. And I think the Google Compute code left. So there's like an Ingress GCE. And now what was left was Ingress Nginx. And some of the people who, like, there was like a couple people with like just direct write access to the repo were manually merging PRs.
Right.
They were moving to automation, but some of the people who were involved with doing reviews of PRs couldn't LGTM things because they weren't org members.
Okay.
So the bots wouldn't recognize them. They were asking for collaborator access to just that repo. But I think we're trying to move away from collaborator access. Like we removed it from the contributor ladder, all that kind of stuff. We're trying to centralize around org membership.
Okay.
And it was just, there were two people who wanted to be able to do reviews against that repo, but weren't org members.
Okay. So we just, so I noticed you just told them, hey, why don't you just make them org members and stuff?
Yep,
Yeah,
I just pointed them at that process, and I think one of them has already put in their application to Kubernetes membership.
Okay.
So a messaging point along those lines, I am trying to be very repetitious about underscoring that there's basically very little requirement to become an org member. It's not like it's a big deal. It's just a sign of trust. I think the most onerous thing you have to do is enable two-factor auth and send an email and get humans to +1 you. But there's actually no requirement for pull requests. So I'm going to say this over and over while I'm at KubeCon. I've said it during the community meeting. I say it in interactions with people directly to add a little bit more color to why org membership in teams and not collaborators directly. It's because it's really, really difficult to audit and understand who has what kind of access to which repos if you are an org member. Only admins can actually click through to a repo and see who is a collaborator versus a member of a team. If we had automation that drove all of this stuff from publicly visible files, this would be less of an issue, and then maybe we could go back to a world where only certain people have only certain access to certain repos. But for now, it's just way easier to manage who's got access to what as human beings by shuffling everybody into consistently named teams where foo-maintainers gives people right access to the foo repo and foo-admins gives people admin access to the foo repo if they want to set up like webhooks and things of that nature. This is all documented in the community repo in the GitHub organizations document, which is, a little bit of like project administrivia logistics stuff that probably shouldn't necessarily live in the root directory, but I don't know that I've got time to pick up that torch. But I know we collectively agree there's a lot of like governance administrivia stuff that probably belongs in its own folder someplace.
Yeah, we should talk about that at KubeCon, because I've noticed that the root is starting to become a little bit untenable, but we have other administrivia in other places where it might make sense to consolidate those things. Okay, so the way we can help is just continue to socialize, become an org member. It's not that hard. Because before, someone was like, I was a SIG OpenStack, and it was like broken like this for a month. I was like, what? What happened? Is this like a... Okay, so we just need to keep letting people know.
Right. Another thing that I would hope we'll do down the line is our tooling really should be capable of auditing like who's in an owner file that isn't assignable or isn't an org member. We had like big umbrella issues for this back when Munch GitHub was responsible for it, but we don't have like ongoing auditing of it. And I think that's something that we could probably add to Prow without a ton of difficulty.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the last time we did that, I think Cole just did a log dump of anybody who had like been tried, where it had tried to assign somebody and it had failed, and then just made a list from those log entries.
Well, thanks for explaining for that to me.
Yep, no problem. TLDR, always be an org member.
Yes, yes. See,
All right.
repetition always wins.
Well,
For org members, one of the problems that we're having is that it wasn't very long ago when our documentation basically said, and you become an org member after you've been contributing to Kubernetes for like a year.
Yeah, so reminder, that's not in the docs anymore. Underscore that when you're telling people about this.
Yeah, there was like PR, you need to have so many PRs or so many reviews
Great.
and this kind of stuff. And I think a lot of those were just moved up to reviewer status. But org member is very low bar now.
Yeah. I wonder, should I send a reminder to Kubernetes dev, kind of like a heads up?
I would suggest no. For now.
Okay.
I would also suggest no.
All right.
I think we should just everybody that's in contributor experience should just get into the habit of being a natural advocate for the org and be ready at all times to hand out this information when people ask.
all right. Thank you for joining the call this morning, and we will see you next week.
Happy Wednesday.
Bye, y'all.
Look at that.
Bye, Jace.
Yeah, I had that background there.
Welcome back, Jace.
Where's your propeller hat, Jace?
It's invisible. They actually are invisible now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
See you guys
it's
later.
the chip that's in his head now.
Yeah.